All right, let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Eisner Prize Fellowship Showcase and Info Session, which we're excited to host during Global Intergenerational Week. It's an international celebration of intergenerational programs and practitioners, and I'll drop a link in the chat for anyone who wants to learn more and get involved. My name is Chelsea Mason, and I am the Director of External Relations at the Eisner Foundation. And before we begin, just a few notes. First, captions are available for this session and can be enabled by clicking the closed captions button at the bottom of your screen. Second, we'll also be leaving plenty of time for questions. Feel free to drop them in the Q&A box, not the chat. Please try to keep them in the Q&A box so we can see them, and we will respond to them at the end. Finally, the session will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel. You will receive a link to the video once it's available in a follow-up email. You can also visit our website, eisnerfoundation.org, for all the details on the Eisner Prize Fellowship and our grant-making programs. And we invite you to join us on social media for the latest news, updates from our partners, and celebrations of how intergenerational connections make our communities stronger. And now, to kick us off, I am pleased to introduce the CEO of the Eisner Foundation, Trent Stamp.
Thanks, Chelsea. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. Today, we are excited to showcase the incredible work of our second cohort of Eisner Prize Fellows and share our plans for the next cohort of fellows. But first, I do want to give a quick introduction to the Eisner Foundation and our Eisner Prize Fellowship program. For those of you who may be new to our work at the Eisner Foundation, we've been supporting nonprofit organizations in Los Angeles County since 1996, and more recently in New York City as well. Early on, we supported many organizations working with children, and we later expanded to those working with older adults. Over the years, we noticed something special. Programs that put the two groups together, instead of serving them separately, were more efficient, more effective, and more empowering for all involved. Participants stopped being passive recipients of services and instead actively served each other. They formed relationships that continued and grew outside regular programming times, and they changed the way they thought about each other generation, finding value in their experience. So in 2015, we made the choice to become the first, and as far as we know, still the only US-based funder exclusively supporting intergenerational programs. Today, we're proud to support a range of incredible organizations doing intergenerational work that makes our society and our communities stronger and more cohesive. From 2011 to 2022, the Eisner Foundation honored people and organizations doing exceptional intergenerational work across the country with our Eisner Prize for Intergenerational Excellence. We're extremely proud of our Eisner Prize winners, which include organizations we hope you're familiar with, like Generations United and Co-Generate. But now, we're looking to support those we hope will be the next leaders of our field. 2 years ago, the Eisner Foundation transitioned to the Eisner Prize Fellowship Program to support emerging intergenerational leaders by providing financial resources, networking opportunities, and the prestige of the Eisner Prize to individuals with new ideas and perspectives that will propel the field forward. Now, we're going to hear from our current Eisner Prize Fellows. For the last 10 months, they've been hard at work developing and executing their intergenerational projects, and we're excited to share their progress with you as they enter the final 2 months of their Eisner Prize Fellowship. Chelsea?
Thank you, Trent. First, I am pleased to introduce Emily Lerner, the founder and executive director of Perfect Pair, which fosters intergenerational relationships between college students and older adults across the country. For the fellowship, Emily launched Pairs with Pride, a new initiative focused on the LGBTQ+ community. Emily?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and so happy to be talking about Pairs with Pride with you all. So I will start and get right in. We are an organization that creates one-on-one connections between LGBTQ college students and older adults to create meaningful connections. These are based on mutual interests, backgrounds, identities, hobbies, and then those pairs together can do programming to re-engage in passions, advocacy work, and LGBTQ culture. Once a pair is made, they meet for 1 hour every single week, either virtually or in person. This organization project was born out of a parent organization called Perfect Pair that I've run for the last 6 years, which has the same program goals and foundation as Pairs with Pride, but is not LGBTQ specific. And that's how Pairs with Pride was started. We have 26 chapters across 17 different states, and at 3 of those spots, that's where Pairs with Pride was launched. So it was launched in Chicago, Ann Arbor, Columbus, and then virtually nationwide for any older adult that wanted to participate. So, for example, one of our pairs is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and meets with her pair virtually. All of our pairs can participate in programming together. So they can participate either in the perfect pair programming that's available to all of our pairs. This is things like art, language learning, photography, book clubs, poetry clubs, etc. Or they can do the Pairs of Pride specific programming that was launched through this program. And that included things like drag shows, theater, gender affirming sports, career development, mentorship, community advocacy, policy, etc. And so pairs can either do them together as like pairs when they meet during their 1 hour meetings, or they can do them as their cohorts. So for example, our Chicago cohort just met for the first time a few months ago. This is a few of our members, and they decided to do a trivia event where the younger and older adults created trivia for each other and then quizzed each other on that trivia. And they are currently working on their theater program. If you look at the middle older adult here, he is very passionate about theater and is helping to run a program where all the pairs can come together and do theater together as a group. For our program for Pairs with Pride specifically, both the older and younger adult volunteers complete a training. So they get trained in historical and modern milestones in LGBTQ history, culturally sensitive and appropriate language, and how identity has evolved over time and across different cultural contexts. And then I just wanted to give some pair examples, which is what our program is based in, and to show you what we do. So this is Grace and Lisa. They were paired because they both love nature and music, but they also both grew up on a blueberry farm, which I feel like was very specific. And when we saw that, we were like, this has to be a pair. They like to do art together during their meetings. They're a great example of a pair that uses a lot of our activities. So this is them doing some watercolor painting. And they also did some like oil canvas painting too. I'm not very artistic, so I'm not really sure what it was, but really have created a special bond. And then we have other pairs like Michelle and Beth from our Ann Arbor cohort that just love to chat. They were paired because they both love sports, are super athletic, and really wanted to get involved in current events. You can see here they did a puzzle, but really they just love to talk to each other. So that is a very special pair bond as well. And I wanted to share one quote from one of our older adults from our Chicago cohort that really just shows what we do and has shown the impact of this program so far. So it reads, "We have discussed the differences in the cultural norms that we grew up surrounded by. Me growing up in the 1960s with no internet and few social support networks for LGBTQ folks, and Elijah growing up in a Mormon family in the 2000s. We have laughed a lot, found empathy for each other's daily doings. I've especially appreciated being able to get a glimpse into the struggles of Elijah and the trans community. There's definitely been progress, but people like Elijah are trailblazers creating their own path forward." And really just shows that these bonds go both directions and are really beneficial for both members of the pair. I also wanted to talk about how a lot of this program has been built with and alongside a lot of community programs in the areas that we started in. So I wanted to give a few shout outs. We are a SAGE collab partner. SAGE is the largest and longest organization serving LGBTQ older adults across the country. And so we work with them to find a lot of our centers, to pair a lot of our older adults in the queer community. And they also helped us pick our 3 starting locations of Columbus, Detroit, and Chicago based on where they thought there was the highest need. We work with the Long-Term Care Equality Index and Centerlink to find our LGBTQ older adults, as well as university career centers to find our younger adults from our chapter sites. And we've worked with a lot of people to build our training for the program, but especially MyGen has been super, super beneficial. And with that, please feel free to reach out with any questions. It has been so amazing. Thank you so much to the Eisner Foundation for making this possible. It has been a dream of a lifetime. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Emily. Next, I'd like to introduce Bob Gallo of Men Living, an organization that empowers men to heal, grow, and thrive through meaningful programs and connections. He is developing Men Living's Elders Program for men over 50, which also serves as a pipeline for facilitators to Men Living's Bridge Program for college-age men. Bob?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much to all of you. I'm Bob Gallo, volunteering with the not-for-profit organization Men Living to create an intergenerational program aimed to bring older and younger men together for meaningful connections and mutual support. This effort would not be where it is today without the generous support of the Eisner Foundation's Fellows Grant. So thank you, Trent and Chelsea, and everyone at the Eisner Foundation. When I retired from a career in aging with AARP, I began to seek out new connections myself. In doing so, I began to understand that a significant number of guys my age, after a lifetime career, were struggling with a loss of identity, not having any tangible sense of direction in their lives, and were at a loss for meaningful connections with other men their age. A colleague of mine in the field of aging told me that in Japan, these men are referred to as wet, fallen leaves. For those of you who understand the dire consequences of living a life of isolation and loneliness, particularly among men over age 65, but also younger men in their 20s, something needs to change. When I discovered Men Living, I reached out to them to share my concern, and they invited me to help create an elders program as a foundation for a bridge to connect the elders with younger college-age men and others in that age group grappling with concerns about their futures and a lack of meaningful connections. Let me share a little bit about what Men Living is about. Their vision is a world of healthy, intentional, connected men, and their mission is to create spaces where men can connect, heal, and thrive together. Those spaces have been over 450 virtual and over 50 in-person meetings each year, and thousands of men of all ages connecting worldwide over the last 7 years. Let me share what some of the participants have said about their experience. Jared Schuster, age 37, and Sean Emerson, age 61. Sean's mellow yet direct approach makes me feel seen and valued. He's become an invaluable mentor. That's what Jared felt and said. Then we have Jim Herbert, age 60, and Will Haskin, age 33. Will was my mentor, and I was the mentee, even though I'm 3 decades his senior. Will has become one of my closest confidants and one of my best friends. That was Jim. This is how the Eisner Foundation's generosity has accelerated this effort. So far, we've doubled the size from 20 to 40 of the Men Living meeting facilitation team, with men ranging in age from their 20s to their 30s to their 70s. We've launched the Elders Program, creating ongoing spaces for men to over 50 to connect, to grow, and reach out to others in need of community and support. We've established partnerships and co-created what's called the Bridge Program and created a structure and curriculum to go along with that. Also expanded programming to 7 days a week, meaning that every single day there's a virtual space where men feeling isolated can show up and meet other men of all ages. We've added 4 monthly in-person gatherings in different parts of the country. We've trained 15 men from facilitation team that already exists and the Elders Program to begin leading ongoing bridge spaces for men of college age, regardless of whether or not they are actively pursuing higher education. Let me share some of the next steps and objectives going forward. We're going to continue to grow facilitators and participants of all generations in Men Living's core business. We're going to launch an Elders Program with AARP Illinois. That is my alma mater, and hopefully expand that across the country. We're going to establish a multi-week virtual bridge programming and cohorts with identified universities and colleges. If any of you out there know of a university or college that would desire and welcome a program like this, please let us know. We're also going to position bridge facilitators within their communities, universities and colleges, and other settings to run in-person cohorts for college-age men. Again, I want to thank the Eisner Foundation for their generosity and support, which is not only keeping this on track, but is making it potential for the future to be very, very possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. All right, up next, we have Mariela, the co-founder of Venprendedoras from Miami, Florida. Her new program, Getting Pitch Ready, brings together Hispanic women entrepreneurs from different age groups to collaboratively prepare for pitching market-ready solutions. Mariela?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm grateful and proud to be here today to introduce Getting Pitch Ready, a program we just launched a few weeks ago in sunny Miami, made possible thanks to the incredible support of the Eisner Foundation. But first, let me introduce myself and our organization, Venprendedoras. My name is Mariela Briceño. I am the co-founder of Venprendedoras, a nonprofit based in Miami that gives visibility, connection, and support to women entrepreneurs of all ages. Growing a business is not easy, especially if you are a woman, new to the US, lacking connection, and speaking with a heavy accent. I know this firsthand because I've been there. That's why we are committed to developing intergenerational and bilingual programs while addressing isolation and ageism in entrepreneurship. For Getting Pitch Ready, we are bringing together women business owners from different generations to work in pairs, in groups, and alongside coaches and mentors to define a clear goal and get ready to pitch it with confidence, with the ultimate purpose of securing the funding they need to grow and move their business forward. Beyond all the challenges that women business owners already face, isolation and ageism also affect their ability to secure funding. In fact, in a survey we conducted, 80% of our participants shared that they feel very lonely and in their entrepreneurial journey, and 20% said they feel somewhat lonely. This shows how important it is to build spaces of connection. When we asked them about connecting across generations, 100% of our participants said they were interested, but less than half were actually making connections with women from other generations. Taking everything I just shared into account, we designed a program that bridges generational gaps and builds entrepreneurial skills through intentional pairing and bringing together diverse perspectives. So far, this has been our journey. Last year, we started with a focus group that helped us develop the curriculum. Early in 2025, we opened the application period and selected our first cohort. After that, we secured the venue and brought together an amazing team of coaches and mentors, also of different ages and generations. We officially launched the program on April 7th with a powerful session featuring two inspiring pitches. First, we heard from Camila, a 16-year-old student and pitch master who has already secured funding for a project and is now preparing to launch her own nonprofit. Then we were inspired by Rosana, a Latina entrepreneur over 45 years old who won $1 million for her business, even though she wasn't fluent in English when she first started. Then, on April 10th and 11th, the whole cohort gathered at the Idea Center at Miami-Dade College for a 2-day immersion working with coaches, mentors, and with each other. Now, after working one-on-one with their coaches, they are ready to pitch tomorrow in front of a panel of judges from financial and business institutions who will give them feedback and hopefully open doors for future funding. But our work doesn't end there. We plan to stay connected through a group chat and monthly virtual check-ins to keep supporting their progress. As for Emprendedoras, we are extremely proud and excited by the results we are already seeing in this first cohort of Getting Pitch Ready. We are confident that this amazing group will secure funding and continue supporting one another across generations long after the program ends. And we truly hope to secure the necessary funding to repeat and expand this program so we can reach and support even more women entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariela, and good luck to everyone pitching tomorrow. It's very exciting. All right, so next I am happy to introduce Marge, the founder of Stoop Stories in New York City. And Marge is developing a new street play initiative in which elders teach old street games to youth and people of all ages can play together. Marge?
Thank you, Chelsea and Trent, and so much gratitude to the Eisner Foundation for your generosity. I'm Marge Kleinman. I'm the executive director and founder of Stoop Stories. That's me, the baby on my childhood stoop in Brooklyn. I still live here in this brownstone. And at the beginning of the COVID lockdown, I was quarantining on that stoop. And I started Stoop Stories as a pandemic project in Brooklyn to connect us all during isolation. 5 years later, we've grown into a collective of more than 20 creatives sharing stories across New York City. Stoop Stories is now a New York City-based nonprofit that connects neighbors across generations and differences through shared stories and celebration of stoop culture. So 2 summers ago, we launched our intergenerational series, including storytelling workshops to organically source stories for our Intergen Stoop Chat film series. Through workshops and documentary films, our goal is to increase social connection between youth and elders, groups who face higher rates of loneliness, isolation, anxiety, and depression. In these workshops, many older adults shared really emotional, nostalgic memories of playing street games growing up. And I had always heard my dad talk about them and other family members. So in our pilot film, Stoop Chat with Jimmy and Shania, Jimmy tells Shania all about the games they used to play and how quiet the streets are. No one's playing in the streets anymore. By our next film, which is premiering soon, Mr. Sweat teaches Monty how to play stoop ball. So an interesting assumption was whenever neighborhood elders would talk about these games, they would often add, oh, those were the days, kids today don't want to play, they're just on their phones. And the youth in the room tended to say, no, we want to learn too. So we decided to explore this further. And thanks to the Eisner Foundation, to which we are so grateful, we have been conducting a pilot designed to bring back old New York City street games, connecting olders and youngers through play. So we partnered with the United Neighborhood Houses, another Eisner grantee, and Henry Street Settlement to pilot a series of workshops and a big festival coming up on the Lower East Side, where many of these games used to be played back in the day. In addition to preserving old New York street games, the main goals were to increase connection and joy, decrease loneliness, foster intergenerational connections, and to together build a festival with and for their own community. We had 7 older adults and 7 young adults and led 3 workshops in which participants shared the stories of these games they grew up with and taught each other how to play them. Together, we all brainstormed what they'd like to see in a festival for their own community. And if you come to the festival, you might be taught by the participants. We distributed pre-surveys to participants at the beginning of the workshops. Most participants said they were looking forward to making new connections or learning something new. Almost everyone seemed interested in playing games and sharing stories with other generations. And almost all participants currently play games, however, no one listed street games. It will be interesting to see if that changes after the pilot. So these are some of the games we played together. That's Mary on the left playing Stoopball, and Robin demoing a game called Teacher. These older adults turned into little kids in front of my eyes. This is Khadijah teaching an old game called Skelly. You may know it as Scully or Skelsies. Big hit for all ages. Love these faces. And here's Lena, the young adult holding the purple ball. She's leading Foursquare. And intergenerational programs, bi-directional practices are really impactful, and they challenge that stereotype that only older adults have wisdom to pass down. So please join us if you are in New York City for our big Street Games Festival on May 18th in Manhattan. I will drop the link in the chat. After the festival, our next steps are to do a group debrief and a post-pilot survey. Potential future phases, if hopefully we will secure funding, would be to replicate this program or create interactive exhibits at other settlement houses, cultural centers, or museums. And please keep in touch. Let me know if you'd like to collaborate. I will drop all this information in the chat, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Marge. All right. Finally, we have Liam Gallo, who is the Chief Impact Officer of the Northern Santa Barbara County United Way. Liam unfortunately can't join us today because he's in a series of emergency meetings related to the federal funding cuts to AmeriCorps, on which his program at United Way is built. However, he was generous enough to record his presentation this morning for us. So in addition to sharing his project, leveraging intergenerational teams to address homelessness, Liam will also close with some words of wisdom for anyone interested in pursuing intergenerational efforts. So with that, I will bring up Liam.
Hello all, my name is Liam Gallo. I work with the Northern Santa Barbara County United Way on our AmeriCorps program, a partnership for people experiencing homelessness. I am here recording this session because of extenuating circumstances that I think Chelsea has covered, but I will delve into those details as part of my presentation actually a little bit later. For now, I'm going to describe my program, what we did in this past year, and how we're working intergenerationally. So what are AmeriCorps programs? What is this? You can envision it as a kind of domestic Peace Corps. So AmeriCorps is a series of national service programs that was founded in 1965. A term of service, which is what AmeriCorps members complete, is a commitment to hours of direct service and training. You can sort of envision it as federally funded, locally implemented, foreshadowing. So members serve by meeting critical community needs, and for us, that would be the needs of homeless folks and veterans. So I have a couple of infographics to show for impact, some fast facts that I'll just run through. 270,000 members and volunteers and organizations are dedicated to strengthening their community nationwide. AmeriCorps disperses more than $800 million in funding each year. So as a reminder, I'm a grantee of AmeriCorps funding. Another fast fact, 84% of AmeriCorps seniors volunteers report improvements in health and well-being after just 1 year of service. And each year, AmeriCorps partners with more than 2,000 organizations committed to helping communities nationwide. So it isn't just AmeriCorps in a community, it's AmeriCorps empowering a local community to do some kind of community service or some kind of impact work. So I am the Northern Santa Barbara County United Way. That's that acronym at the top. Here's our design for AmeriCorps programming. Our members work intergenerationally to serve veterans and people experiencing homelessness. They serve at nonprofits, county departments, community and faith-based groups doing street outreach, housing acquisition, housing retention and support, and volunteer recruitment. They do that as intergenerational pairs so as to create a higher chance of establishing rapport with a client. We've found that their intergenerational collaboration resonates with our beneficiaries, and they form stronger rapport as a result. Our result. So we're here in Santa Barbara County. We every year place 20 to 25 members across 10 sites. Again, county departments, nonprofits, faith-based groups. We feature an intergenerational cohort. So our first year of doing this thing with an intergenerational lens, we were doing it with an even breakdown across the last 4 generations, 25% in each of the Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, and baby boomer generational thresholds. And so we were wondering why that was. We didn't do that on purpose, and so we started to lean into it. As a result, some of our results, we've housed 248 people since September and the end date of our reporting period in March. And now we're in the middle of an expansion into San Luis Obispo and Ventura County. Or we were. We got notice literally yesterday that our funding was going to be terminated as a result of some sort of DOGE action. This is obviously devastating. These numbers, that's affected. So how do we house people without AmeriCorps members? What happens to these AmeriCorps members and their livelihoods? They dedicated their life to this service. They oriented their whole life around being able to depend on the stipend that they receive. Their life goals are dependent upon their education award they receive at the end of their service year. Our service sites will have service provision gaps now. It's devastating. So I do want to still shed a light on what you should do about getting your projects to be intergenerational. We've discovered that a diversity of age strengthens an initiative by adding new perspectives to view challenges through. Since you can become homeless at any age, it makes sense that AmeriCorps members of a diverse age range are better responsive to the issue. We bridge generational boundaries, we reduce loneliness, we build a sense of belonging in our community, we mitigate polarization by leaning into our intergenerational collaboration. So, tips on reframing your story. So I want you all to take our successes and sort of run with it. You should survey your own org for age. Decide on your own generational thresholds. We used a funder co-generates thresholds for our initial evaluation on where our age ranges should be. Now we use our reporting to AmeriCorps to decide the age ranges. So you should decide on that with your team, but definitely survey your org for age. You should adapt key phrases for your existing work. So you're probably already doing some kind of intergenerational collaboration. You just didn't know that's what it was called. So we now use phrases like age diversity, intergenerational collaboration, and co-generation in our orientation materials for AmeriCorps members, in our grant seeking, and in our reporting back to any funders, any stakeholders, including the community, including the board. So there's that piece. And you can embed intergenerational collaboration as a core value by sort of, it should infect all of your stuff. So bylaws, marketing materials, like I said, grant narratives, and in your training. So this is a way that you can sort of start to do this work if you're wondering where you should start. I have this thank you slide, which feels wrong to end on. This is my name, Liam Gallo. This is my email address. The thing at the top of my head is my AmeriCorps members and the number of people we serve and how that's been complicated by the current issue. I've sent Chelsea some materials for follow-up that AmeriCorps Service Commission has given us for action. If I ask anything of you all, it's 2 things. Take our lessons learned for intergenerational collaboration. It's effective. And 2, maybe lean that into some sort of civic engagement process for human services providers like myself that have been, I would say, wrongfully put in the scope of something here. So please take action, and thank you.
All right. So as Liam noted, the impact of these cuts and many others that the nonprofit sector have seen are real and are already resulting in job losses and service reductions for people who need it most around the country. So on behalf of Liam and the many other organizations and individuals who are working hard to make their community stronger through AmeriCorps programs, I'm going to drop a link in the chat with more detail on how you can take action. But with that, I do want to thank all of our Eisner Prize Fellows for the incredible work that you've done. We couldn't be happier with our second cohort. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so now what many of you have been waiting for, we will now, there we are, talk about our plans for the third cohort of Eisner Prize Fellows and how you can apply. We have a short presentation to share with you, and we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. So please drop those questions in the Q&A box. And again, we'll also be sending out a recording of this video and upload it to our YouTube channel. So with that, let's get started. I'll turn things back over to Trent, who will kick us off.
Thanks, Chelsea. And thank you also again to all of our fellows for your hard work, your accomplishments. You have set a very high bar for the future cohorts. And you are toiling in an unbelievable environment that I don't think anybody anticipated was coming. And to me, you five are what leadership looks like in this country right now. So I thank you all, including Liam, who's out there somewhere fighting the good fight and on tape. But thank you all very much. I hope that many of you are here today as potential applicants for the next round of Eisner Prize Fellows. As you saw from this group, the Eisner Prize Fellowship brings together new leaders working to create innovations and intergenerational connection, and it provides them with the resources, the connections, and the visibility to complete a project during the course of a year. And hopefully they gain the tools to continue thriving in our field afterwards. We have selected 5 fellows in each of the past 2 years, and we fully intend to select 5 more for this cohort as well. Before we go too deep on the logistics of the fellowship, we usually find it useful to establish what exactly we mean at the Eisner Foundation by intergenerational programs. To us, the strongest ones always have these few things in common. First, they're intentionally designed to encourage interaction between people of different ages, usually with people that they're not related to. These programs create activities and opportunities for people to engage, to share, and to get to know each other. As many of our partners will tell you, it's not enough to just have older people and younger people in the same room. You have to jumpstart the interaction, and then participants can take it from there. Likewise, programs that simply serve people of different generations without intentionally facilitating those interactions just usually aren't the strongest intergenerational programs. Second, the ones that we love the most, they see participants as resources, not just as passive recipients of services. Even if a program involves one generation helping another, there's still a mutual benefit involved. Everyone contributes in their own way, and both groups benefit as well as the community as a whole. For those of you who are looking for inspiration, we have profiles, we have videos of our partners showcasing their work on our website, and we encourage you to explore those. If you're in the early stages of developing your own intergenerational programming, I would also point you to the amazing resources that our friends and partners at Generations United and CoGenerate have on their own websites. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chelsea to go over the application process and our plans for the coming year. Chelsea, all yours.
Thank you, Trent. The Eisner Prize Fellowship is designed to incubate a defined project during the fellowship year. It includes a total of $50,000, which includes $10,000 for the fellow to use as a stipend and $40,000 to support their project. The fellows will gather regularly throughout the year to share their progress, learn from each other, and learn from experts in our field. There will also be an in-person opportunity to connect during a kickoff retreat in Los Angeles, July 28th through 30th. Expenses for the fellows will be covered. The virtual meetings throughout the year will be co-created with the fellows so that they're tailored to their backgrounds and their projects. The application itself is open to anyone working to foster intergenerational connection in the United States. Unfortunately, we are not able to support applicants outside of the US. We also need each fellow to be affiliated in some way with a 501c3 nonprofit, whether as a leader, staff member, volunteer, or some other kind of connection. This organization should be willing to accept and disperse your fellowship funds as needed during your project. So if you're not the head of the organization, please make sure the leadership is supportive of your application. We're open to a broad range of project proposals, including new programming models, research or technology, and concepts we haven't even considered. To us, this is a chance to incubate out-of-the-box ideas that bring people of different generations together. We also realize that projects may evolve as the fellowship progresses, so we encourage applicants to think big at this stage in the process. And I'll note, while we will be asking for your birth year in the application, there are no age restrictions. All of this is intended to be as open as possible to encourage a wide range of applicants. When you begin the application, you'll just start by providing some basic contact and demographic information, and then the questions that follow are designed to get to know you, your interest in intergenerational connections, your successes thus far, and the project you'd like to pursue. The project you propose doesn't have to be fully fleshed out at this stage, but you should have a clear vision of what you'd like to accomplish within a year and with a budget of $40,000. The questions will be available on our website as the application is now open, and so you can review them before you begin. There will also be an option to include supplemental materials in 2 places. First, there will be a text box where you can share with us anything you'd like us to know that didn't fit earlier in the application. Feel free to include links to relevant work or extra information you think would be helpful to us as we review your application in that text box. Second, there's an option to upload relevant materials. Nothing is required, but depending on who you are or what kind of project you're proposing, you may want to take advantage of this option. For example, someone in college or graduate school could include a letter of support from an academic advisor stating that they support the student's participation in this fellowship. Someone proposing a technological innovation could include evidence of previous technical accomplishments. And someone proposing to do their project under the umbrella of a nonprofit could submit financial reports for the organization if they're in senior leadership, or include a letter of support from the organization's leader. Anyone could include a letter of recommendation from a mentor, peer, or supervisor. Essentially, this is an opportunity to provide evidence that you can accomplish the project you're proposing and that you have the support of the people around you. Once more, this part is completely optional. I will also mention that due to the high volume of applications we receive for this fellowship, we also highly encourage you to curate what you choose to upload. The application itself is open now through May 16th, and we plan to announce our next fellows mid-June. Again, we're going to send you a follow-up email with this recording and a link to the application, and more information is also available at this link, eisnerfoundation.org/epfellows. So, thank you all so much for your interest in the Eisner Prize Fellowship Program. We've been thrilled by your excitement and enthusiasm, and we're so excited to review your applications. So now we have some time for questions. Please put any questions that you have in the Q&A box. As you can see, the chat's been very busy, and we will likely miss your question if it's in there. So please put any questions you have in the Q&A box, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. We'll get to as many as we can, and we're going to prioritize those questions that are applicable to a wide range of people rather than a specific individual or project. So with that, let's see what we have. All right. So the first question we have in here is, please define new leaders. That's a good question. Trent, do you want to start?
New leaders is a nebulous and soft term that we're making up along the way. So it's essentially people who are not tired. I don't know. You can be 80 years old or you can be 16 years old. We're looking for new, innovative ideas. Part of this program is in our intention to incubate those new leaders and to, not just reward the same people that will speak at the Generations United conference again. And I'm one of those people, but we're trying to bring new, interesting, innovative people who want to bring communities together. So I suspect that if you ask the question, you're a new leader, so go for it. It's just one of those things we say, but new leaders can be as broad or as constrained as you want it to be.
We also have a question about the 2025 dates. As you may have had answered for you as the presentation progressed, the application is open now through May 16th. The fellows will be announced in mid-June, and there will be an in-person retreat in Los Angeles on July. This is why we do this, July 28th through 30th. All right. I know you said applicants must be associated with a 501c3. Are we applying as individuals associated with the organization, or are we applying as the organization? You are applying as the individual. The application will ask for your affiliation and the EIN, as you reference in your question, but you are applying as an individual. This is not intended to be a small grants program. You are not applying as an organization. You are applying as an individual proposing a new project within the umbrella of an organization. And that, again, is very loosely defined. Trent, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I think this is one of the issues that people get bogged down on, and it's actually not as complicated as we pretend it to be. So far, the IRS has not given us permission to give individual grants to individual people. We've applied, but there are 4 people still working at the IRS, and they just haven't gotten around to giving us that permission. So what we need to do is to work with a 501c3 as part of our tax exempt status. So we have to give the money to the 501c3, who will then hopefully work with you to give you the $10,000 stipend to reward you for your good work, but then also dole out the $40,000 as a budget for implementing your project. It works easier if you're, the CEO of said nonprofit or you have a partnership with that nonprofit, but it has worked with all 10 of our previous fellows in the past. We need you to have a nonprofit that you can work with for the allocation of these funds. There's nothing more complicated than that. That's just the requirement that the IRS has put on us as a private foundation, that we can only disperse grant funding to a 501c3. We've been able to make it work with all of our past fellows. If you don't know a single person at a nonprofit and you have no relationship with them, the odds are that we're not going to be able to make this work. But in most cases, it hasn't been a big problem in any way whatsoever. So, and we'll work with that 501c3 to make sure that, the money that goes is supposed to be earmarked solely for your project. We'll also work with them to make sure that the $10,000 stipend gets to you as easily as humanly possible. But that's just the reason for it, is because we're required by the IRS to give our grant funding to 501c3 organizations, and they have not put us at the top of the list for approving our ability to make individual grants to individual people. So the answer may be different next year, but for this year, we still need to work with a 501c3.
On a related note, Maria asks, can we be associated with 2 nonprofits in the case that a project involves a collaboration? I would say pick one. There's no reason why you can't work on some kind of collaboration. That sounds really exciting. But just for the purposes of writing a check to an organization for us to get the money to you, we just need to know which one is getting the check. But I would note in your application how you intend to work with both organizations. Then for, let's see, we've got a couple around if the project can be something that is an established program looking at evolving in a new direction or entering a new phase, expanding in some way. Trent, you want to take that one?
I would say yes, and I mean, we want you to tell us why what you want to do is interesting. And so if it's something that has been tiny and you would like to find some funding to make it a little bigger, then we'd love to hear about it. If it's a new project, we'd love to hear about that. As I think Chelsea has alluded to before, this is not just a grant program. This is not, we need $41,000 to continue to run our after school program here at our organization. We're looking for a quote unquote new leader who has an innovative and interesting idea and can scale that to some degree within 1 calendar year. And we would love to reward it and support you and connect you and give you some opportunities to network. And hopefully at the end of the year, your project is up and running. You heard from a couple of the people who presented earlier that now they're looking for larger funding. We may not be that source. We only work in Los Angeles and New York City. And so if you build a really cool intergenerational program with your Eisner Prize Fellowship, hopefully you're able to then take it to other funders and say, look what we did under the auspices of the Eisner Prize Fellowship, but now we need to diversify our funding stream. And one of the things that Chelsea does under this fellowship is to connect you to some funders and connect you to some people who will help you with better grant writing and how best to sell your program. But this is an idea for you to come to us with, I have a really good idea. It's either fledgling or about to start or has not gone to scale in any way whatsoever, but with a little bit of your help and a little bit of the access that you provide, this can be something that we really think can bring people together intergenerationally moving forward in our communities. But we also, we just don't want to get away from the fact that we're looking for fellows. We're looking for the actual people, not a project, the actual person who has a good idea, who can implement that idea. This is a fellows program, not a small grant program.
I'm going to do a couple rapid fire ones. If I had a project partner, could we split the stipend? Yes, you may apply as a partnership or a pair. Keep in mind that the application is set up for individuals, so you will have to pick one person to apply, but you can write the rest of the application as a team. Just detail that in your answers. And yes, so if you do have more than one person executing as the fellow, there is one stipend. So it would be split among those two people. We get this question a lot. How many applications do you get? Keep in mind, this is our 3rd year and things vary quite a bit as this program gets more attention and more scale. We have gotten a couple hundred in the past, and we anticipate to have many, many more this year, given the interest we've seen so far. So I would count on several hundred applications that we get to review. So let's see, we already talked about scalable project models, key evaluation criteria and things that make applications stand out. We're looking for people who have cool ideas and can show in their application that they can execute it, because both of those are very important elements. As Trent said, we are looking for fellows. A lot of people have really cool ideas, but don't necessarily have the relationships yet or other elements of their project in place to be able to effectively execute it. So as you're working through your application, that's what we're really looking for, is someone who's got a cool idea, whether it's something that's going to be brand new or something that's going to be scaled up, and also has the wherewithal to execute it. So that's, community relationships, that's a relationship with the organization that will be accepting the funds on your behalf. Show us that you can do this. As I mentioned with the numbers we're looking at, there's a lot of competition for this fellowship, which means for us, we get the opportunity to find a lot of really cool people, but for you, that does mean that you want to highlight what makes you unique. What are your strengths? What are you bringing to the table that shows us that you can execute this project, as well as the 5 people that you just saw earlier. So hopefully that also answered that that question on criteria. Would a resume CV be appropriate as additional material, or would that be redundant? If you think that helps prove that you are an exceptional person who brings exceptional things to the table, sure, absolutely. Include your resume or CV.
Chelsea,
yes.
So a couple people were asking about geographic location.
Yes, go ahead.
It's possible that I screwed that up in explaining the difference between our grant programming and the prize. The grants that the Eisner Foundation makes are almost exclusively made in New York City or Los Angeles County. That's just the communities in which we work. The Fellows program is nationwide. All 50 states are eligible, and we encourage you to apply outside of the LA and New York City area. It's an opportunity for us to identify some new leaders in communities in which we don't necessarily always work. If you're in New York or LA, we're happy to hear from you, but we want to make sure that you know that this Fellows program is a national program, and we've had fellows working in many different states, and not just in the 2 in which we are confined our grant making as a general rule.
We've had a couple questions about process and who's reviewing. The Eisner Foundation team, which does include me and Trent, are the ones reviewing the applications. And of course, we engage our board in this decision as well. Is there a second level of review? For some applicants, yes. Sometimes it's helpful to hop on the phone real quick and have a short conversation about what your project is and clarifying a bit. But there is no formal second level of review or interview that's required as part of the process. Let's see. We only have a few minutes left, so I want to make sure that we get to the biggest questions. Trent, maybe you can take this one. We applied last year and would like to apply again this year with the same project. Is it okay to reapply with the same project idea?
Sure. But you unfortunately didn't make it last year, and we may have more applicants this year. So, it just means that, the odds are a little bit different. But the world has changed since last year. And I wouldn't just regurgitate the same application. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. And, maybe we got it wrong last year. So feel free to apply and tell us why you should be a 2025 Eisner Prize Fellow.
All right. And we also have a question about any contingencies or restrictions for the funding, specifically in the context about project deliverables and also recent language restrictions around federal funding. We are not a federal funder. We are a private foundation. We follow the law. We are committed to dispersing our grant funds and our fellowship funds within the letter of the law, and past that, we make our decisions according to our own mission. Trent, anything you want to add there?
We value diversity at the Eisner Foundation, so please don't scrub anything from any sort of application. Tell us what you do, tell us why it's important, tell us why it's valuable, and tell us why you're trying to bring together various members of your community for better outcomes. We're not looking for any sort of censorship of either your language or your activities.
All right, we have, let's see, only 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure we get to the broadest one possible. Let's see, if you have questions as you fill out the application, yes, you can reach out to us if you'd like to, info@eisnerfoundation.org, and we will answer to the best of our ability. But we do hope that you just showcase your phenomenal project and who you are within the application. We've tried to make the application as straightforward as possible, so hopefully you won't have too many questions. Regarding letters of support, would 2 to 3 from potential partnering organizations be acceptable, or do you hope to see more? I don't think you're going to need more than 3 letters of support. It kind of depends on what your project is. If it's a massive partnership operation, maybe pick a couple that you think will write the strongest letters, but we also want to be mindful of the people you're asking for letters from. So I certainly wouldn't do more than 2 to 3, and then just be strategic. What's helping you put your best foot forward? More is not always better. Let's see. I kind of answered this before. Are we able to discuss or advise on individual applications prior to submission, or are those floodgates too big? Brian, those floodgates are too big. We are a very small foundation, and we do the best we can to be responsive as much as we can. But as a rule, even for our regular grant making program, we do not take pre-LOI meetings. We do not take pre-fellowship application meetings, just because we do not have the bandwidth for it. We are just too small, but thank you. Our application deadline, May 16th, that Friday. Let's see, we are at time, so I am going to stop there. Trent, any final words of wisdom?
No, thank you all very much for indulging us today. Thank you to our fellows for doing such a great job, and I hope to hear from many of you. We promise you that we will read every single application, but please remember that it's us who has to read every single application, and we haven't farmed this out to AI in any way whatsoever. So send us your cool idea and your cool resume, and tell us why you want to be a fellow, and we'll do our best to select a diverse, compelling, interesting crop for 2025. And hopefully this program's not going anywhere anytime soon. So if you don't make it this time, we hope to see you in 2026.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a great day.